This AskReddit user asks, what positive effect has coronavirus quarantine had on your life? My dad passed away at the end of March, and being in quarantine has allowed me to grieve without the responsibility of having to go into work or having to interact with anyone. It's made this process a lot easier. I am so sorry for your loss. Thank you. As someone who has lost their father as well, I am so sorry for your loss. But I am also glad that you have found a way to properly grieve, and that you feel the process has been good for you. I struggled for years with my grieving. My father died when I was 18, right before graduating high school. So I just want everyone else to be able to grieve in a way that's best for them. My daughter and I were on the verge of a complete split in our relationship. COVID hit. She and her husband came to isolate with us, and we worked so much out. Glad to hear you're working stuff out. Spent much more time with family and my little doggo. I co-parent and work a lot, so I feel like the time my kids spend with me is just spent doing homework, cooking, eating dinner, and getting them to take a bath. I felt like I missed out on so much, and the kids were spending so much time in before or after care. But it all changed. We got to spend a few weeks with nothing getting in between us. We did so many crafts. Spent late nights chalking, staying up chatting, bonding and loving each other. It was a much-needed break for a lot of working moms. I do know that I am not cut out for homeschooling, but I also have decided I think I need a job with different hours. I'm just missing out on too much alone time and time away from sensory stressors at school. The quality of my work has gotten much better as I actually have the opportunity to focus and do my best now. A lot of students struggled with the lack of daily structure and procrastinated. After weeks of work piling up, they became so overwhelmed and anxious that they were unable to even begin. They are now in summer school trying to pass their classes. It's nice to hear that you found a way to thrive. Good for you. What did you do to make this happen? Same but with work. Some coworkers and I have been asking to work from home for years, but were never allowed to. When COVID hit, all of a sudden we had to mandatory work from home. I had no idea how much the office stressed me out until I actually had the chance to work in a quiet and relaxing environment. A break. Sort of. Got a new job at Wetherspoons in December, and I slept with a co-worker almost immediately. Needless to say, things got super awkward there, and it would turn out it's super cliquey there like high school. So feel like a lot of people there are sort of against me. Along with other stuff in my life that was happening, it's just been nice to not worry about work at all. Those still need to deal with trouble at home occasionally. Sigh. I moved a week before we went on lockdown, and moving was incredibly stressful. It's my first flat and the first time I've had my own space. I went from a really negative housing situation to a positive. I've finally got some proper rest, and I'm eating and sleeping better than I have since I was a teenager. I've had more time to exercise, unwind, and write, which I choose to instead spend on binging a mediocre Netflix show and eating snacks. Honestly, it's forcing me out of my depression rut and actually getting me to watch Netflix. You have no idea how much of a difference it makes to actually have both one more thing to talk about and a reminder of why you love the concept of storytelling on the days where my focus isn't completely shot. It's starting to make me dredge out old ideas and think if I want to write them. Also getting through my yarn stash. User number checks out. I masturbate at home instead of work now. Hole up. Interesting choice of words. Let me respond on the same level. The only positive thing about Corona is that I am negative. I stopped smoking for like 5 weeks. Flushed my lungs out a fair bit. I am back smoking now, but only at like 2 to 3 sticks a day. I don't have the breathlessness I used to get earlier after a smoke. AWHH dude, why'd you go back? I've quit smoking now for months, and the only time I ever slip up is when I'm extremely drunk and get offered one. Felt like one a couple weeks ago. It has been stagnant at the 2 to 3 a day since then. It is helpful while I'm working. Lets me decompress and get my thoughts together. Sort of a pit stop during a day. WFH is harder with a kid at home. How much was you smoking a day before? In my prime I'd easily smoke about 15 to 20 a day. Before I quit though, it was almost entirely social smoking until it got to the point I realized how much they make me feel sick. But yeah, I feel you, man. A satisfying cigarette really does take the edge off. I've lost close to 15 pounds. Who knew that cutting out daily fast food lunches would have such a big impact so quickly? Not me. Apparently. DN, I'll PayPal you 15 pounds den, we can't all be in debt. Gave me time with my 18-month-old who I saw for an hour before going to work and 2 hours when I came home. Spent every day with him. And I learned to make some food that I always wanted to make. People finally understand my 3-foot area. Stop. Don't touch me there. That is my no-no square. I was literally thinking that when I read the comment. My relationship with my teenager has strengthened and grown far beyond what I ever imagined possible. We laugh, joke, talk, and go for long walks together. She wants to spend time with me. She has invited me into her world. And feels safe enough to share her deepest thoughts, fears, hopes, dreams, and opinions. I'm continually in awe of her insights, empathy, kindness, and compassion. She's an amazing human being. And I'm grateful for the bond we have. If this is the only good thing that comes from the pandemic for me, I will eternally feel like I have won the lottery. I have heard this sentiment through many other posts and many other subs. I too have been having an abundance of time to spend with my children. It's been amazing. That's cute. They're so sensitive during their teenager years, it's crucial to be there for them at this point. I share this feeling, but from the daughter Pav. I'm finally getting closer with my dad. We also laugh, joke and talk more. Sometimes we go for rides to a city. Or just sit in our backyard. We have political talks but also just informational. Sometimes we just share stories. Which he has a lot of that are quite interesting. I'm really happy we're getting closer during all this. It's made things somewhat easier. It's allowed me to reflect on all the horrible things I've seen in life and help come to terms with it. Sometimes all you really need is just some alone. Saved a ton of money. So much this. Not going to pubs or eating out has saved me a ton. Nursery fees for me. 2 kids in nursery is about $1.50 a month. I almost feel guilty that I'm basically making nearly $2,000 a month just from lockdown happening. It has been the opposite for me. I used to travel a lot for work and all of my meals went on expenses. Now I'm actually having to pay for food. My tiny studio doesn't have a freezer. So at least I'm eating fresh food. But boy is it expensive. Making more from unemployment. Had time to update my resume and organize my room and trunk. Opened up a savings account for the first time in my life. Been hiking every single day for at least an hour. More family time. Haven't drank much alcohol besides a few cups during this whole quarantine. Being able to appreciate my life and friends more. Going on car rides as AFG adventure. Sounds like you're crushing it. Keep it up. Instead of only 3 days off from teaching high school to be home for the birth of our second son. My husband has been working from home since a couple of weeks before he was born. It's been great and completely unexpected. Realizing how boring my life is and how unchanged my life was by quarantine. Hey buddy, that makes 2 of us. I also realized I have no friends. It made me finally get serious about relaunching my comedy YouTube channel. After months of just talking about it. Since stand-up and TV acting are on hold. Everybody laughed when Becky Bronstein, said she wanted to be a comedian. Well, nobody's laughing now. My anxiety levels dropped briefly. I started a new job late last year and was floundering with all the new information I had to learn. I had to move to a new city and was already feeling isolated long before the lockdown. I was traveling frequently and working overnight a lot of the time. I had no life outside of work. Any free time was spent sleeping. Despite the huge pay rise compared to my old job, I have managed to get myself into more debt. First to support myself through 9 weeks of training in Canada and then to be able to afford a deposit on a new apartment. My rent and bills have increased so much that I now actually have less expendable cash than before. If I moved back home and took a job with a £15,000 pay cut, I would actually have more money to spend than I do now. For a couple of months I was able to focus on the world going to St and ignore my own problems. I'll be back to work in the next few weeks and I really don't want to. My lease isn't up until December. So I might have to try to stick it out. But I just want to move back home to be near my friends. If I hadn't have been required to move for this job, I would have been about £750 a month better off, and perhaps I would consider sticking it out. But being broke, living in an expensive box and sleeping all the time is no way to live. I have not had the coronavirus yet. How do you know? Today, head person of our National Health Statistics Committee said, up to 60% of people infected had no symptoms or they had something like regular every-year flu. Honestly, I think I myself had COVID-19 while I had this something like flu after attending movie festival. 1 week 1 to 3 movies a day. In the beginning of March. At the time we already had first cases. Go get an antibody test. I'm pretty sure 80% of the people who tested positive for it on the cruise ship had no symptoms. That's good, and it's also bad. That means there's a lot of people who don't know they have it heading out into the reopen. I get to take care of my mental health more than I used to. Saving 60 to 70% of my salary every month. Funnily enough, I just posted this in another subreddit. It's been nothing but positives for me. Once the lockdowns hit, I couldn't work anymore. I'm an Uber driver, so I actually stopped before I had to. So that's a bonus. 'Cause I fucking hate going out. Then my wife started working at home. So because she's working less, she's not as tired or stressed. We see each other more. And we're rooting more often. Then the government decides to hand out stimulus packages to everyone who can't work. Because I'm considered a business owner, I'm getting $3,000 a month, which is actually more than what I was getting doing Uber. So I upgraded the FK out of my PC. Then the government decides to offer another type of payment to encourage the building industry, where if you meet certain criteria, you get $25. We meet this criteria. We're building a house. So this 25 grand is going to knock off like $20 minus 30 a week for the entire mortgage. Due to interest, it's going to save us $40 in the long run. There's also that guy on YouTube some of you may have seen. That's what I reckon. Some jarsauce hating metalhead who did a few cooking videos because of the lockdowns. I made his bolognese, despite never having cooked a thing in me fucking life. And it was amazing. The good news just keeps coming for me. What is this certain criteria for building? Hearing about all these stimulus packages makes me so envious. I know that some folks here in the UK were eligible for the 80% furlough option. But that's essentially all that was on offer. I've been able to spend better quality time with my wife, as well as complete home renovations. Always good to improve the ol' hobbit hole. I was categorized as essential, so the lack of traffic and no more 15 miles per hour school zones has been nice. Everyone has to wear masks in public. This really lowers my social anxiety since there's less of their face to look at. Especially if it was some a hole I didn't want to see. Same here. Except my social anxiety is more centered around my own face. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos.